Welcome back to Full Speed Racing and Donington Park and the F3 Cup, the second race of the weekend, the anti-penultimate race of the season. Just two to go at Snetterton after today's encounter. The cars coming to the grid, and this is how they line up, with Lewis Hamilton-Smith in pole position, Tristan Cliff alongside him, then Alex Craven and Alice Powell on row 2. You'd expect the winner to come from one of those four, but it's, as ever, a very competitive field, which is about ready for the off here at Donington Park. Away we go. It's a good conversion to pole position from Hamilton-Smith. He has got Alex Craven, who once more has got the jump on Tristan Cliff, challenging him into Redgate corner for the first time. It's Cliff in third, Alex Powell in fourth, then Mark Harrison from Dave Kraskus and Stuart Wiltshire as they work their way through Redgate, out of Hollywood and down through the Craner curves for the first time of asking. Lewis Hamilton-Smith presented with a good opportunity here to possibly make hay while the sun shines and break clear as the pulls behind intensify. Ollie Ray in pursuit of Nick Robinson. He's got Tony Bishop then tucked in just behind him as Hamilton-Smith already beginning to build a little bit of a buffer over Alex Craven in second. Craven though has got Cliff and Powell right in behind him, then Harrison and Wiltshire, Dave Kraskus, Nick Robinson, Ollie Ray, Tony Bishop and the rest of them all safely through these opening exchanges. It's Philip Austin who's tucked in behind Tony Bishop. Then we've got Matt Payne and Frank Thomas completing the field as they sprint down the back straight on towards the Foxy S's for the first time of asking. It's been a good weekend-long battle between Harrison and Wiltshire. There's a spin for Philip Austin, around he goes. The oldest car in the field, it's a 1998 vintage Lara, just rides the curbs a little bit too aggressively. He'll rejoin back of the pack with a fair amount of work to do. Stuart Wiltshire continues to apply the pressure to Mark Harrison as they work their way around Goddard's for the first time. Already you can see Hamilton-Smith just begin to be caught once more by Alex Craven. Tristan Cliff and Alice Powell, then a cessation in hostilities between the pair of them. They're just content to use the slipstream to enable the leading group to close up on itself. They'll have learned from the first race of the weekend. Alex Craven got such a big advantage early on due to the ferocity of the fighting behind. What they really need to do is get the leader a few cars all as tight as they can, then dispute the lead later on in the race. Stuart Wiltshire though just begin to slip back from Mark Harrison at the moment as Hamilton-Smith passes underneath the ascending plane from East Midlands Airport. The leading quartet breaking clear then of the Harrison and Wiltshire tussle, which seems to be yo-yo between the pair of them, because every time Mark Harrison would appear to build an advantage over Stuart Wiltshire, Wiltshire comes back at him as the pair of them accelerating on towards the Foxy S's, which the leaders have already arrived. It's Tristan Cliff trying to close himself onto the coattails of Alex Craven. All the while though, Hamilton-Smith leading the way. I'd say he's leading comfortably, but at the same time he's got a 2 or 3 car length buffer. They'll all be absolutely on the limit of adhesion. One of the real arts to master in these Formula 3 cars is that they have all the grip in the world until suddenly they have none. And for the drivers, the real trick and the real experience comes from just beginning to understand the telltale signs when the aerodynamic grip, mechanical grip is just about to cry enough. All these drivers, it might look very, very smooth and straightforward from the outside, but in the inside, in the cockpit, they are pushing as hard as they dare. And it's always tricky as well in these late season races when the ambient air temperature maybe isn't all that hot, to make sure that you can work the heat into the slick tyres smoothly enough in the early stage of the race, not push too hard too quickly. So the leading trio now just begin to ease themselves away a little bit from Alice Powell, who is possibly in a little bit of a remote 4th position at the moment. She's certainly slipping back from Tristan Cliff, who's remaining with Alex Craven. The pair of them still trying to ease themselves onto the tail of Lewis Hamilton-Smith. Hamilton-Smith running in the 2004 Spec Lara as opposed to the 2007 Spec cars. And there's a spin from Hamilton-Smith away from the lead of the race at the Foxy S's. He pushed too hard, and that's what we're talking about by saying they're on the limit of adhesion. Hamilton-Smith overstepped the mark, he drops to 3rd and immediately into the clutches of Alice Powell. He gets right underneath his rear spoiler. And so again, with an eye towards the championship, a golden opportunity for Alex Craven, possibly scoring a double victory for Tristan Cliff. Potential to try and make amends for the dramas of yesterday's race. So they sprint along, past the pits, into Redgate Corner once more. Leading quartet all still fairly closely bunched. Then the gap back to Mark Harrison in 5th, 6th place Stuart Wiltshire, and then it's Ollie Ray who leads the trophy class ahead of Dave Draskus. Very impressive stuff from Ollie Ray. Side by side between Nick Robinson and Tony Bishop. Nick Robinson gaining the place, working around the outside of Tony Bishop as the pair of them exit Redgate. Meanwhile, the fight for 2nd and 3rd, or rather 1st and 2nd, Craven and Cliff closing up on itself. They not only has Hamilton Smith spun himself into 3rd, but he's dropping back from the electrifying pace being set by Joe. And this is how it all happened. Into the Fogarty S's, and Hamilton Smith carrying so much speed in. The rear of the car just breaking clear. Very, very quick thinking though from Hamilton Smith. Had the car in the correct gear, ready to recover. Absolutely, immediately. Matt Payne a little bit lower down the order, jinking through, ahead of Philip Austin and Frank Thomas. And this is one of the beauties of the F3 Cup, is that there's always somebody in the field to race with. Thomas in particular, the blue car, absolutely immaculately turned out. So he looks to gain the place once more from Philip Austin. Austin, though, carries a bit more speed out the Melbourne Loop on towards Goddard's. The leaders closing up on each other ever more. You just wonder at what point Tristan Cliff is going to pounce here. Shows himself the inside of Craven. It's better than come over the crest. Cliff Newton looking to get into the slipstream behind Alex Craven as they head on towards the Fogarty S's, which is where we've seen so much drama already this weekend in the F3 Cup. And Cliff looking to challenge, but he can't quite do it. And really to go through, you can see how much speed they carry through. He needs to be alongside before they hit the braking point. On about into the Melbourne Loop. Craven covers the inside line, Cliff looks to the outside. They go side by side on the brakes. Cliff tries to get the switch back, he can't quite do it. Masterful defending there from Alex Craven, he just blocked off the racing line. No way through there for Tristan Cliff. And now they've got Louis Hamilton Smith coming back at the pair of them. So as the race moves towards its midpoint, we have got really the leading trio all closing up on each other. Alice Powell in 4th. A little bit lonely in 4th position as well. She's just not quite had the pace in today's race. Whereas Hamilton Smith, evidently wishing to prove that, notwithstanding that spin, he would have been in with a shout of winning this one. Still the Matt Payne, Philip Austin and Frank Thomas tussle continues apace behind as they all the brakes down through the gearbox into the Melbourne hairpin and on towards Goddard's. Craven from Cliff, then Louis Hamilton Smith, who a few moments ago is really closing in, but he doesn't seem to be quite as near this time around. You still think the winner of this race is going to be either Alex Craven or Tristan Cliff. It really depends potentially who blinks first, whether or not either driver makes an error. At the moment though, they've both been wheel perfect for much of this race. Nice to see as well, such a close competitive battle for the lead in the F3 Cup. It's been a super season of racing, some very, very tight battles, which are going to go all the way to Snetterton in the final rounds of the championship. And we have a couple of invitation drivers as well, warming up for Macau. Carlos Sainz Jr. and Esteban Ocon will be at Snetterton. There's a spin for Stuart Wiltshire into the gravel trap. He's taken a corner marker with him as a souvenir, and he's beached right at the periphery of the circuit. Spins up the rear wheels, he's not going to find any traction there. So that's Stuart Wiltshire's race over. You just wonder whether or not that may lead to the intrusion of the safety car here. Potentially even a red flag, because he is right at the edge of the circuit. As Craven and Cliff accelerate out of the old hairpin through Schwantz. They continue their race, but they are going to be coming across the stranded car of Stuart Wiltshire fairly rapidly. For Alex Craven, this is a good result, because at the very least it provides a yellow flag zone at potential point on the circuit where Tristan Cliff could overtake. So there is the waved yellow flag alerting them to the presence of Stuart Wiltshire's car. Tristan Cliff raises his hand. Now, yes, a red flag has just come out. You can see it on the way into the S's. And yes, the red flag is out. The race being brought to a halt well over half race distance, so I suspect that that is going to be a result. Unfortunately, it was what was really a very, very minor spin for Stuart Wiltshire, which has brought an early end to proceedings. Let's have a look then at the final results, with victory for Alex Craven, second place Tristan Cliff, Louis Houghton-Smith completes the roster, Mark Harrison in fourth, Alice Powell into fifth after getting a 10-second penalty for an out of position start. Ollie Ray victorious in the trophy class. So after a hard weekend's racing, time to celebrate on the Donington Park rostrum.
Yeah, it was. It's probably some of the closest racing I've had this year, and yeah, I mean, he put me under a lot of pressure. He definitely had more pace. Certainly the two corners, Coppice and McLean's. So it was just kind of damage limitation through there, and then try and pull away on the bits where I had a bit more pace. So I think it was lap 8. We ended up pretty close together. Kind of took the defensive line, and I think he probably went a bit too deep on the brakes and kind of gave me a bit of a break again. And unfortunately, the race was cut a little bit short, but yeah, good result for the weekend.
Yeah, that was good. Struggled to just get the car. It's got a bit of a pickup problem with the data logger. We have to map the engine, so yeah, we just struggled a bit to get the car competitive, and yeah, it's a lot better now than it was the first race. So pleased with that result, and we have to get it sorted for the next one. Hopefully, so fingers crossed.
With just 2 races to go, there is everything to fight for in the championship. Just 3 points separate Alex Craven and Alice Powell. It's going to be a real nail-biter at Snetterton. Well, that's it for this week's Full Speed Racing, but join us at the same time next week. We'll take a look back at some of the highlights from what's been an excellent 2013 season.